Now, would you like to introduce yourself really quickly?
I'm Tegan, and I like K-pop. My first album that I got was actually either a birthday or Christmas present. I think it was a Christmas present from my parents, like a year later, into 2018. I think I had like 8 albums at the end of 2019. Mixture of BTS and TXT, because those were like my 2 major groups at that point. End of 2020, I had 20-something albums. And then between end of 2020 and now, I now have 156.
156?
I think.
And you somehow fit it all in your little room.
Somehow, yeah.
So you've amassed 156 in less than 2 years.
Don't say it like that.
Well, that's what happened.
I did have albums before that, but I didn't really buy them for collecting. I just bought them because I kind of wanted them. Just like collecting is like wanting a big collection. It's just like, oh, these are cool. I'll just have like a few.
Right.
It wasn't until sort of 2020 that I was like, actually, I want like to get quite a bit. I would love to have lots of them and have more of them. Yeah.
The move when they go,
Yeah.
How does it do it?
While I was in Denmark especially, I made friends there that were really into albums, and one of my friends had a big collection already. I think she had 80 something while I was there. Like seeing her collection, I'm like, I want that. That looks really cool. Just having like a whole shelf of just K-pop albums, it looks really nice. And then I kept buying them. And then I bought more, and then more people came out with more albums, so I bought more. And especially with smaller groups, it tends to get lost a little bit with like super huge groups like BTS, but it's the sort of smaller the group, the more important it feels, especially when like recently my ultimate group Just Be.
Oh, these are your signed albums.
These are my signed albums. This is Just Be and Tempest.
Mm-hmm.
Hit 100,000 total sales of their 3 albums that they've got out, 50,000 for their newest album, and it felt really good to know that like you helped do that.
Right. So it's like giving back to the artist.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. There are these milestones that they've hit in their careers and like the amount of albums that they've like sold, and it's like, I helped do that.
Yes,
it's like, I did that. I put way too much money into them, but...
No, I mean, like, that's
like,
really,
I did that.
No, that's really sweet. That's definitely, like, part of the whole thing about being a fan of somebody, right?
Yeah.
And, like you mentioned the whole, like, the smaller the group, the more important it feels. Like, when we were at Real Groovy and we saw, like, I saw, like, groups that were, like, new group, but also, like, people who had already disbanded.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to kind of see physical like reminders that they used to be there but now they're not.
Quite, especially,
not to say that Just Be's gonna disband.
I mean,
but just like it must hurt obviously when your group disbands.
Yeah.
And then you just have the physical reminder that they were there.
Yeah.
I guess that's really special.
While I haven't been like following a group that's lost a member or disbanded, but I do follow SHINee, of course.
Oh yes.
And I do have Jonghyun's Poet Artist, which is his posthumous album.
Yeah.
So sort of having that, especially that one, that hits home quite often whenever that's one of the ones where it's like reminder that he's been there.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that one hits sometimes. Yeah, I have a few groups that I do just get like the odd album from, but there's 3 sort of ways that I can like categorize the kind of collections that I've got for different groups. There's like the full collections, where I've got every version of every album.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And then I've got like half collection where I've got like one of each. And then sort of just like the random collections, like SHINee, I've got a few, but like not a whole collection, just like the odd one here and there. So I would really like to keep up with the groups that I've got full and half collections of, just because it's cool to sort of look back on their like history of albums. I do look at keeping them for a long time because it, like what you were saying, you did mention disbandment earlier. As much as you hate to think about it, like every group that comes eventually, whether it's like the 7-year curse or earlier than that or way later than that, like there are some groups that are still going, like Shinhwa. There's a whole bunch of groups that go on for ages and ages, but eventually they're not going to be able to perform anymore. They're not going to want to perform anymore. But also, even not that far ahead, looking back, like older groups, BTS Shiny EXO, if you have the earlier stuff, like I have like Replay by Shiny.
That's cool. Can
Looking
I see
2000,
that
2008 Shiny. Looking back at looking at them now, and then looking at like Taemin at 14 years old.
Yeah.
It's like how far they've come as well.
Yeah.
But even just holding on to it longer than that, and getting like newer groups and seeing what the newer groups are doing compared to the older groups, and the changes that go through this like way that albums are made.
Yeah.
Like again, Shiny 2008, no photo card, no inclusions, tiny little thing. To like Map of the Soul 7, which is like A4, came with a whole bunch of photo cards in it and everything. So just the way and like the standard of what comes in an album that changes. From there.
Oh, Ayo. Oh my god, I really want this actually.
Parting words?
Stan Just Be.